many delays, Realme's new Narzo series is finally here, and the Narzo 10A is the more affordable of the two phones that have launched in this series. Now, after looking at the launch and after having used this phone, I am really confused about the product positioning of the Narzo 10A, especially considering the Realme C3 exists. And to be entirely honest, there are only three differences, major and minor included, between these two phones. So what's really better on the Narzo 10A? Well, I'm Ershad from Mr. Phone, and that's what I'm going to find out in my review of the newly launched Narzo 10A. With the Narzo 10A, Realme is going for a really bold look. The new design identity is the first thing that separates the Narzo 10A from the Realme C3. There is a massive Realme logo on the back, which is very similar to the style first adopted by Realme power banks. I feel that it looked cool on a power bank, but not so much on a phone. I mean, I've always been a fan of subtle logo placements, and this one's definitely anything but subtle. Plus, I'm sure that Realme has a long way to go before it can create that sort of brand identity which it can plaster all across its phone. Although I must admit, it doesn't look too bad, and sometimes bold steps are well rewarded. Maybe the consumers like it. And as for the rest of the design, it is standard Realme fare. I like this really catchy blue color, and the matte plastic finish is nice too. I think that it feels good in the hand, and there's nothing really much to complain about. Unlike the C3, you now get a fingerprint scanner, and that's the second difference between the two phones. This scanner is blazing fast, but the vibration motor is really bad. It rattles the entire body of the phone even when you're typing, and that of course happens when you're using the fingerprint scanner as well. I sincerely feel that any manufacturer, not just Realme, should avoid including the vibration motor in budget phones if it's going to be implemented in this way. The buttons offer an above average tactile feedback, and you also get a proper SIM tray for what it's worth. Overall, the Narzo 10A has this bold design that could, create a lot of split opinions. You could like it, but I definitely don't. Do you like it? Let me know in the comment section below. As for the display, you get the same 6.5-inch IPS LCD screen with an HD Plus resolution. It is an average quality display panel that attracts a lot of smudges, especially if you have oily fingers. The oleophobic coating on budget Realme phones is generally bad, and same is the case for Narzo 10A as well. Plus, the touch response rate is not that good. The good thing about the display is that it can get fairly bright for a sub 9K rupee phone, but so can the C3. As for Netflix, Hotstar and Prime, you can watch all of these in SD considering you get only Widevine L3 certification. Now the phone runs on Realme UI, and I have spoken in length about the new update. If you haven't seen it yet, you can check it in the card that pops up right now. In fact, I even compared it recently to MIUI 12. My take is that Realme UI on a phone under 10K is actually a very refined software experience. What's better is that I didn't notice too many annoying ads either. The third and final addition to the Narzo 10A in comparison to the Realme C3 is the new 2-megapixel macro camera, apart from the 12-megapixel primary and the 2-megapixel depth camera. And to be honest, the pictures from this macro camera were disappointing to say the least, and it feels like an addition to just spruce up the marketing collateral. Anyway, I tested out the cameras in entirety, and here's what I think. Firstly, the primary camera is a fairly decent shooter in good lighting situations. My only concern is that the camera fails to hit the right focus many times. The end result is soft pictures. Even otherwise though, don't expect to be blown away by the details or anything. The colors are vibrant, and the dynamic range performance is good enough for the asking price. But the portrait camera took soft portraits in spite of trying multiple times. The 5-megapixel selfie camera on the other hand is crisp and detailed, provided you give it ample light. And the portrait selfies are fairly accurate too, with a believable edge cutout. You can also adjust the level of blur pre-shoot. The 2-megapixel macro camera always shot soft images, and I couldn't get a good shot despite multiple attempts, therefore defeating the purpose of this dedicated camera. As for the video recording chops, you can shoot 1080p 30fps videos without stabilization. The audio recording is bad though. If you plan to make TikToks with this phone, prop it up on a tripod and use your own audio recording equipment, and also find ample light to shoot. So this is a 1080p 30fps video recorded using the Narzo 10A. I'm just checking if we get any sort of stabilization, what focusing is like, how the colors, and let me just Get out. Show you guys what it looks like. Alright. Take a look at this. Now when it comes to low light shots, the Narzo 10A struggles. Obviously. I didn't expect any better either. Also let it be known that there is no night mode here. So overall the Narzo 10A's cameras are good enough for a quick picture here and there, but I feel that you can spend a couple of thousands more and get the Redmi Note 8 instead for a much more improved picture quality, if camera performance is all that you seek. Now just like the C3, the Narzo 10A also uses a MediaTek Helio G70 chipset, but unlike the C3, the benchmark numbers were not as good, which is weird considering the Narzo 10A is the more expensive phone. For example, the Antutu and Androbench numbers, which you can see on your screens right now, are lower. Geekbench is around the same though. And I ran these tests multiple times that too. As a matter of fact, playing PUBG and Call of Duty were not as smooth and jerk-free as I remember on the C3 as well. In fact, even everyday usage felt a little underwhelming with stutters here and there. Looks like it is an optimization issue for the first batch of phones that we've received. Maybe Realme can put out an update to fix the performance issues and at least bring the performance to the level of the C3. Moving on, I'm glad you get a working headphone jack on the phone, but it is just that. The quality of sound, despite the use of real sound technology, is not too great. I could hear distortion at higher volume levels. The mono speaker at the bottom gets adequately loud, but it doesn't sound very full. It serves the purpose though. Inside the phone you get a 5000 mAh battery with reverse charging support. You also get a micro USB port at the bottom with 10 watt charging support. I could manage to charge the phone from 0 to 100 in around 2 hours and 20 minutes, which is similar to what we benched with the Realme C3 as well. And the phone can easily last you 2 days of usage on moderate use. So battery performance wise, there is nothing to complain about the Narzo 10A. As for the network performance, it was rock solid on 4G and the earpiece quality was great too. However, let it be known that you cannot get 5 GHz Wi-Fi on this phone, so you have to, live with 2.4 GHz on the Narzo 10A. So is the Narzo 10A worth that extra money over the Realme C3? Well, definitely not. I feel that most people can live without that fingerprint sensor and the macro camera as well, and that leaves us with the design language. So if you really want and like this bold design language, that's possibly the reason why you'll pick the Narzo 10A over the C3, but otherwise I don't see why you should spend more money. You can just save a lot more by picking up the Realme C3 instead. Also talking about that macro camera once again, like Marcus Brownlee succinctly put it,
who's asking for these 2 megapixel macro cameras?
Well, with that message, that's it from me. I'm Ershad from Mr. Phone, and that was our full review of the newly launched Narzo 10A. I hope you guys liked it. Until next time, goodbye and Godspeed, my friends.